Welcome to your community. This is your hometown. This is Walton Entertainment. This is where you can hear from the community and those making a difference. We explore topics, local festivals, arts and entertainment, and local news. For this program and much more, visit us online at yourlocalstream.com. That's yourlocalstream.com.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
Everybody, we're so excited to be here today live for our first in a monthly series of healthcare education lunch and learn chats. We're excited to co-sponsor this with Piedmont Walton. Couldn't think of anybody better to do that with. So Heather Boyce is the communications, community marketing. I didn't get your exact title, Heather, and I should know that, but I don't. But I'm going to turn it over to her to introduce our program speaker for today. Heather?
So thank you, Terry. So I'm Heather Boyce. I'm the Community Relations Manager for Piedmont Walton Hospital. And I have the pleasure of introducing Kenna Glick today. So Kenna is actually our coordinator of the Metabolic Center here at Piedmont Walton Hospital. She's been overseeing the outpatient nutrition clinic and the surgical weight loss program for 5 years now. Prior to making the move to Piedmont Walton, she coordinated the diabetes education program at Piedmont Newton Hospital. Kenna holds board certifications in both diabetes education and adult weight management, and she's actually the first clinician in Georgia ever to do that. So Kenna has been recognized by her industry's peers in the past with honors such as the 2011 Piedmont Newton Employee of the Year, the 2012 DMNA National Malnutrition Team Leader of the Year, and the 2015 Today's Dietitian Magazine essay winner. Kenna is passionate about empowering others with the knowledge and self-management skills needed to improve health and disease outcomes. And March is actually National Nutrition Month, and today I found out is National Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day. So I'm going to turn it over to Kenna now, and she's going to do our presentation.
So I think it's wonderful that we had so much interest in the topic of diabetes for the first lunch and learn that's being sponsored. Diabetes is a really complex disease. It's not a condition where we take a medication and just hope that it's working. So, but what is unique about diabetes is that means that we have the ability to have positive outcomes and some positive control over the disease of diabetes with our lifestyle approach. As Heather mentioned, I am a diabetes educator and a registered dietitian. So a lot of our focus during the talk is going to be on healthy meal planning and how the foods that we choose can impact our blood sugar control. But I did want to start off by looking at the disease of diabetes itself and just some of the treatment options that are available to us. So what is diabetes? All right, well, let's start with what Google has to say, because we all know that if we input our symptoms into Dr. Google, we're going to get it the most accurate diagnosis and the absolute treatment plan that we all need, right? And I hope you're all shaking your head no. But Google defines diabetes as a disease in which the body's ability to produce or respond to the hormone insulin is impaired, resulting in abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates and elevated levels of glucose in blood and urine. Very accurate, but might be a little confusing for some to follow. So, definition of diabetes I pulled up is from the CDC, and they describe diabetes more simply: chronic health condition that affects how your body turns food into energy. I love that they emphasize it's a chronic health condition. And then the National Institute for Diabetes and Kidney Disease defines it as a disease that occurs when your blood glucose is too high. An even simpler definition, but also true. Diabetes isn't one disease. It's actually a variety of different blood glucose issues. The two most common are type 1 and type 2. So type 1 we often call juvenile onset. It usually hits very rapidly, affects children or very young adults. And when that happens, their pancreas loses the ability to make insulin, and they do require the use of insulin for the rest of their life. Whereas type 2 diabetes is more of that adult onset diabetes. It's often discussed in terms of an insulin resistance. And for today's teaching purposes, we're actually going to focus a little bit more on the type 2 diabetes. While a lot of what we cover with the meal planning will be relevant for all types of diabetes, type 2 is what a lot of our community has, so it is where I want to place some of our emphasis. And I think the hard thing about type 2 diabetes is we don't really understand what's causing it. So for those of you that have diabetes or are helping a loved one who has the disease, a lot of times this is kind of how it unfolds. The doctor says, hey, you have diabetes, I've written a prescription for this medication, don't eat anything light, and you probably should lose some weight. Not that any of that is likely wrong, but I want to try and help you all understand a little bit better what might be going on with type 2 diabetes. In the most simplest form, when our blood sugars are being controlled appropriately, we eat foods that have carbohydrates. Those carbohydrates get broken into the simple form called glucose. What should happen next is a hormone called insulin scoops up that glucose and takes it to your cells for energy. That is a good thing. Glucose is your body's preferred energy source. So I actually want to reference this image on your screen of this treasure chest. An endocrinologist actually spoke about type 2 diabetes in this way, and it really resonated with me, so I'm hoping it helps to make a little sense for you. Picture the cells of your energy as this treasure chest. That is where we want to store the glucose, which is that body's preferred energy source. Insulin is going to act like the key, that it should unlock that cell and allow that glucose to get in. When we are dealing with insulin resistance, what happens is all of a sudden we're not able to recognize, the insulin doesn't recognize the combination or can't access those cells to let that glucose get in. So what happens is your body appropriately starts spitting out insulin in an effort to try and help get that glucose into the cells. But because that's not working properly, you start having more and more and more glucose backing up in the bloodstream. And when you prick your finger, what you're testing is how much of that glucose is staying in your bloodstream. The reason a lot of times doctors will tell you if you're overweight to lose weight is, what we know is that when we're carrying excess weight, we think that that excess fat is literally blocking these cells. And as we lose weight, that insulin is able to get to those receptor sites and let that glucose get into the cells where it belongs. So I do hope that helps you understand that a little bit. So how is diabetes treated? Well, the three most common ways would be lifestyle habits, which most of us would refer to as diet and exercise, medications, and then metabolic or bariatric surgery. I am not putting a plug in for weight loss surgery just because we have a phenomenal program here at Piedmont Walton. The American Diabetes Association literally says that a metabolic, bariatric, and or weight loss surgery is an effective treatment for type 2 diabetes. Has really great outcomes with reducing or eliminating the needs for medications, normalizing blood sugars, and in some instances, even putting diabetes into remission. Our main focus is going to be lifestyle habits and in particular meal planning, but I wanted to take an additional moment just to talk about the medications because we get a lot of questions about them. to read it, but more just to kind of help emphasize a couple of points about medication. There are 10 different little boxes on this screen that are kind of that creamy, peachy color. There are approximately 10 different classifications of medications that can help to control your blood sugars, help to regulate your diabetes. The other thing I want you to notice about this screen is there's not just your pancreas sitting on that little blue human. There's a bunch of organs, and then we get into muscle cells and fat cells. Your medications work on a lot of organ systems. And so a lot of times your doctor may put you on a second or a third medication because they're adding something that addresses your diabetes from a different organ or a different cell within your body. One of the most common things that patients want to know is, how close am I to going on insulin? Or they come to us because they've recently been put on insulin. And they said, well, how did my doctor know I needed insulin? Like, I don't really want to be on it. There's a lot of different factors that go into why someone might start insulin, but kind of in a ballpark, just to give you some idea. There's kind of two things we tend to look at. Number one would be if your A1C, which is your 3-month blood sugar average, if that A1C is trending above a 10, it might be an indication that you are starting to need some insulin to control your blood sugars. The other way that a provider might look at it would be if you're already on 3 non-insulin medications and you're still not achieving good blood sugar control, they might start having that conversation with you as to whether insulin might be an appropriate treatment to add to your diabetes care plan. But again, there's a lot of factors that go into that. All right, so let's transition over to one of the things that you do have a lot of control over, and that is eating. Now, I am a dietitian at heart, but I am probably one of the most practical dietitians you will ever work with. Heather and I actually have the pleasure of sharing the same office suite. She has seen me eat junk food. I really do think we can make all foods fit, even with diabetes. My goal is that by the end of this, you feel comfortable knowing, hey, what foods can make my blood sugars go up, and then allow you to work those into your meal plan. So let's start off with something pretty boring and basic. What are foods made up of? We break foods down into 3 major categories. They're going to either be a protein, a fat, or a carbohydrate. For today's purposes, we're going to focus on carbohydrates because they are the food source that's going to have the most impact on how your blood sugars are controlled. All right, lots of foods have carbohydrates. Remember, I'm a practical dietitian, so we're not taking these foods away from you, but it is important to know how many things actually have carbohydrate. Most people know that sweets and desserts have carbohydrate, but so do things that start out as a grain, even healthy grains like whole wheat flour and whole grains like oatmeal. It's also going to include everything in the fruit group, whether it's juiced or sauced or fresh and whole. One of the categories some people don't know about is that things in the milk group generally make our blood sugars go up. If that surprises you, the easiest way for me to say why that's possible is if you've ever heard of somebody say they're lactose intolerant. Lactose is the natural sugar that occurs in milk. And then we have our starchy vegetables, which are generally your potatoes, your corn, and your beans. All right, so if we take those carbohydrates and we look at them a little more closely, while we know all of them are going to make our blood sugars go up, how simple or complex that carbohydrate is tells us how fast our blood sugars are going to rise. So simple carbohydrates generally are ones that are made up predominantly of some type of sugar source. That might be naturally occurring, like it would be in a piece of fruit, or an added sugar, like putting brown sugar on top of oatmeal. And then we get into our complex carbohydrates. Your starchy foods, your whole grains, they're still going to have your blood sugars go up. They're just going to rise a little bit slower. And hopefully the slower those blood sugars rise, the lower they're going to peak. All right. Knowing which foods affect your blood sugars is a big step. But the next step is knowing, well, what does a serving look like? All right. So let me give you an example of how things might go down in my household. If I turn to my daughter and I say, hey, what did you eat for lunch? She may say, I had small bowl of pasta. And if I turn to my husband and I say, hey, what did you have for lunch? He's going to say, I had a small bowl of pasta. But clearly these are not the same size. If you know the noodles are going to affect your blood sugars, I want you to be able to appreciate these bowls are going to affect them differently. And now I want you to know, how much is that larger bowl going to affect my blood sugars? How many servings is that actually? We're going to start with the more complicated way of doing this, but it is the most accurate. And that's called carbohydrate counting, which I'm sure many of you have heard of. If you think of all those pictures of foods we saw, we define a serving as how much of that carbohydrate source adds up to 15 grams. You don't need to memorize that number. It's just a reference point. I've listed several foods here and what amount of that food would add up to 15 grams. It's going to go anywhere from a little tablespoon of something super sweet like jelly or pancake syrup, but it may take 3 cups of popcorn or a non-starchy vegetable before we start to approach that 15 grams. But by and large, the most common serving size that adds up to 15 grams of carbohydrate is roughly a half a cup. So if you're looking at that first bullet point, you're going to see those cooked starches and those unsweetened fruits and your starchy vegetables and your unsweetened dairy products are things that add up to about 15 grams of carbohydrate. So the next question then is, well, how much should I eat? The answer is not 0. Right? And this is, I see this very commonly. People start getting frustrated with their blood sugar, so they just try and eat less and less and less of foods that have carbohydrates. And trust me when I say, with type 2 diabetes, it's about consistency. We can help you figure out the right amount, and we can be fairly consistent with that amount throughout the day. You're going to see better blood sugar control. Nothing frustrates my clients more than when they eat really good for dinner, nice lean protein source, steamed veggies, a salad, and they wake up the next morning and their blood sugars are higher than when they went to bed, and yet they haven't had any carbohydrate since the small amount they allowed themselves at lunch the day before. So our goal is not to eliminate these, but to find a consistent amount. Now, I was a little bit hesitant if I was going to share this slide with you guys or not, because there are a lot of things that factor into what's the right amount of carbohydrate for you. But I do think that all of you who are dealing with your blood sugars or helping people who are dealing with their blood sugars wanted at least a ballpark. This is kind of a springboard to where we might start someone that's come into the hospital with a new diagnosis of diabetes. We aren't going to spend a ton of time on this slide, but there are some key things I want to stand out to you. First of all, I tend to give carbohydrate recommendations on a meal-to-meal basis. So I don't give somebody a daily amount because your body can only handle so much carbohydrate at one time. You can't skip breakfast and then bank those carbohydrates and carry them over to dinner. The other thing I want you to notice is I didn't give anybody the option for 0 carbohydrates at any of your meals. So what you're going to see is 2 to 3 servings would equal about 30 to 45 grams. Because if we're saying 1 serving of carbohydrate is 15 grams, then 2 servings is 30 grams, 3 servings 45 grams, and so on. Let's, for teaching's sake and using the food label, say that we're all going to aim for about 45 grams of carbohydrate for our meals. Then what we want to do is we want to use a food label to figure out how much carbohydrates in that food. Because if I know I'm aiming for roughly 45 grams at my meal today, then this food label is going to help me understand how much this particular food is going to impact my blood sugars. So at a bare minimum, I want to look at where these 2 orange arrows are. I want to look at the serving size, and then I want to look at the total carbohydrates. Everything on that nutrition fact panel is based on whatever the manufacturer is calling a serving. So in this case, if I'm eating the 2/3 cup of whatever this food is, and I go down to the total carbohydrates, I'm consuming 37 grams. If I have 45 grams to play with in this meal, I know I can make this food work within my meal plan. Now let's assume I want 2 servings. roughly 1 1/3 cups of this food. Well, then that means I've got to go back down to those total carbohydrates because I'm consuming 2 servings of that as well. That's putting me more like 74 grams of carbohydrate. And for a lot of us on this call, that might be a little bit too much at one time. There are some that would be able to handle that much. At a bare minimum, if you want to use carbohydrate counting for blood sugar control, that's where I would start. That's going to tell you the quantity of what you're consuming, and do I have some left over to add other carbohydrate sources to this meal? Now, we could look further at this label and get more into the quality of the food choice. So let's look at the total sugar. In this scenario, it says the total sugar is 12 grams. A mistake I see a lot of people make is that they add that 12 grams to the existing total carbohydrates. It's already built into the total carbohydrate number. So all this label is telling me is that, hey, of these 37 grams of carbohydrate, 12 of them happen to be coming from sugar. What that sugar tells me is how quickly are my blood sugars going to rise. So if the majority of my total carbs are coming from sugar, I should expect that food is going to get into my bloodstream a little bit quicker, probably cause a faster, higher spike. Below the total sugar, these new food labels now have how much of that sugar is added sugar. So in this example, of those 12 grams of sugar, 10 of them, the majority of them, were an added source of sugar. So now let's look at the fiber. We don't fully absorb the majority of the fiber that we eat. So I want to look at another food label with you. If we aren't fully absorbing the fiber that we eat, then that means in terms of our blood sugar control, we're really not absorbing the carbohydrates coming from that fiber. So let's take something that's really high in fiber like kidney beans. And let's, for teaching purposes again, let's assume we're going to eat 2 servings, 1 whole cup. So if I look down there to the total carbs, and I'm eating 2 servings, I'd be at 36 grams of carbohydrate. I'd also be at 16 grams of fiber. Well, if I'm not absorbing them, I can subtract those out. That gives me 20 grams of net carbohydrate. Pretty significant difference. If I'm taking these kidney beans and turning them into a bowl of chili, that means now I've got room to add my cornbread on top of that chili and eat it the way I want and still have kept my carbohydrates in range. Now, I work with patients all the time who don't want to do math in order to eat a meal, and that is okay. You do not have to subtract the fiber away on a food label in order to look at your carbohydrate intake. I teach it a lot because if you are trying to make healthier food choices, if you're looking for those whole grains and you're searching for those really high fiber foods, I don't want people to get frustrated that those higher fiber foods end up having more carbohydrate. If you briefly just kind of take a peek and subtract those grams of fiber out, you're going to find that those more wholesome, whole grain, high fiber foods are very comparable, if not even a little lower in carbohydrate than kind of its quote unquote white counterpart. All right, let's talk about what we're going to do though if we don't have a food label. Because I do want you to be able to look at a plate of food and pull out leftovers from the fridge and still have the ability to know how much carbohydrates you're eating without that food label being present. So this is really a pretty cool and simple way to do this. If you think back to a couple of slides ago, we said, hey, one of the most common serving sizes over and over again that adds up to 1 serving of carbs, or 15 grams, is roughly a half a cup. The palm of your hand is roughly a half a cup of food. Okay, so if I have something sitting on my plate and it's about the size of the palm of my hand and I know it's something that is a carbohydrate source, then I'll be able to estimate, hey, I took in 15 grams of carbohydrate. Now, for men that are on the call or anyone who actually has a very large hand, sometimes I tell y'all, you've got to kind of take this line across here and pretend that part of your hand's not there. And what's left below that wrinkle, that's probably a little bit more closely related to a half cup portion. All right, so far we've got a half a cup, which if it's a carbohydrate source is 15 grams. If you make a fist, that is closer to a whole cup of food, all right? So that doesn't make it wrong. You don't have to take half of it back away, but if I have a pile of food on my plate that's closer to the size of my fist, I'm just going to assume that's more like 2 servings in that pile, or closer to that 30 grams of carbohydrate. Okay, again, for those of you that have large hands and you want to be accurate about this, I would say if you cover up that first knuckle, you'll be a little bit closer to what that whole cup looks like. So let's put this into practice. Here's a plate, and this plate has a mix of things that are carbohydrates and aren't carbohydrates. I would often ask my clients to be able to identify which of these foods have carbohydrate and then guesstimate for me about how much carbohydrate they're actually consuming. So we have some peaches off to the side, a baked potato, both some cooked and non-cooked vegetables, and then some type of mystery meat down there at the bottom of the plate. So when working with my clients, the first thing I hope they could do is identify that the 2 main contributors to carbohydrate on this meal would be the fruit and the baked potato. And the next thing I'd want them to be able to do is say, okay, approximately how much carbohydrate do you think this is? So I define the fruit in the little bowl as roughly a palmful, or a half a cup. So if we go back to the slide, that means that that amount of canned peaches is roughly 15 grams of carbohydrate. Half a cup, palmful. The potato we described as a fistful, or roughly 1 cup. So if the potato is the size of my fist, I'm thinking, oh, okay, that's closer to that 30 grams, or 2 carbohydrate servings. So if I add that up, I'm at 2 carbohydrate servings from the potato, 1 from the fruit. I'm at 3 servings, or 15, 30, 45 grams of carbohydrate. Now, if we had enough time, I could probably argue there's a little bit of carbohydrate coming from those vegetables, the non-starchy vegetables off to the side. For those of you that eat small amounts, I don't think I'd ever worry about it. If you are a huge veggie lover, if you tend to eat large portions of them at your meals, reach out to me and I will gladly help you try and determine whether or not it's having a significant impact on your carbohydrate intake. So we've kind of defined 2 ways at being able to estimate how much carbohydrate you're eating. Knowing that is very helpful. It's also just as helpful to remind ourselves sometimes what diabetes meal planning is not. It's not about just avoiding the sweets. It's not good enough. There's a lot of healthy foods that we should be eating, but they do influence our blood sugar control. It is also not about learning these carbohydrate sources and trying to eat as small amount as possible. Remember, consistency throughout the day is going to be what's best for avoiding those low blood sugars and, in many cases, the high blood sugars. And then finally, I hope this doesn't come across as feeling like a diet. The reality is the way people with diabetes should eat is no different than the way people who don't have diabetes should eat. Let's take a look at that. Somebody with diabetes, I would say, hey, eat 3 meals and up to 2 snacks a day as needed. For hunger, for glucose control, for good nutrition. If you tend to eat much smaller, more frequently regulated meals, then another way of looking at that would be to say, eating about every 3 to 4 hours. But most importantly, not skipping meals and not skipping carbohydrates. If you're overweight, then trying to achieve or maintain a healthy weight is important. It would be important for somebody that doesn't have diabetes. The one thing that is a little bit more unique to people with diabetes is they need to try and be consistent about their carbohydrate intake throughout the day. But limiting processed foods would be something I'd be encouraging everyone to do. Processed foods are generally high in white flours, added sugars, a lot of sodium. They tend to lack a lot of nutrition, and they tend to have those flavorings that trigger us to want to eat excess. On the flip side, eating whole foods, seeking out the high fiber foods, things like whole fruits and vegetables, beans, otherwise known as legumes, and then whole grains. Doing that and putting them in combination with lean proteins, a little bit of healthy fat, should help most of us to be able to achieve good blood sugar control. And if it doesn't, and it's time for a medication change, it doesn't mean that you failed to do everything right. Remember, it's a progressive disease, and it just may mean it's time for a change in that treatment plan. All right, I want to wrap things up and give you all a chance to ask questions, but I wanted to give you all an opportunity to prove to me that I at least taught you a little something, and give everybody an opportunity to maybe come and get in on what we call our in-body scale. So I'm going to go back to that other slide in a second. But we have a really cool tool here at the Metabolic Center of Piedmont Walton. Our scale can actually tell us how much of your weight is muscle, fat, water, or hydration. And it can actually render us your resting metabolism. It'll give us some insight as to how well you burn calories even at rest. So here's your challenge if you want to participate. I want you to send me an email of an example of a meal that has about 3 carbohydrate servings, or if you liked the carbohydrate counting, then roughly 45 grams of carbohydrate. My email is right there. That's how you can send it to me. And let's keep this simple. You could send me a typed version of what you thought was roughly 45 grams. You could snap a picture of something that you ate that you thought had about 45 grams of carbohydrate. You could even piece together images from the internet if you want. And then we will randomly draw one of those people to come in and do the free in-body assessment. So one more thing about this, it is not an invasive test. You do not have to get down to your skivvies to get on this scale. As long as I can access your bare feet and your bare hands, you can keep your clothes on. It literally takes about 3 minutes from the time you take your shoes off until the time you put them back on. We'll probably spend about another 4 or 5 minutes interpreting that, and you could seriously be on your way.
Good morning. I'm Tisha McCrae with the Walton Youth Project and the Partnership for Families, Children, and Youth, and I'm joined today by Alexis Burton with Hope Springs Counseling. Alexis has been working with us for several years, both in our after-school program, our in-school program, and our out-of-school events here at the Board of Ed Annex, mainly in the area of mental health. Today, actually, Alexis and I are going over to Social Circle High School, and we're going to be working for Suicide Prevention Month there. And I wanted to let Alexis just have a few minutes to give us some of the signs for suicide prevention, if we might know someone, even if we don't recognize that in ourselves. Do you want to start with that? And
Sure.
then we can talk about Social Circle?
Absolutely. Some of the common signs found for suicide risk would be obviously if somebody's talking about suicide, comments in passing. Another thing to look for is hopelessness. There's change in behavior. If somebody becomes more introverted or more reclused, that's a sign of possible suicide ideation. There are all kinds of things that we kind of dismiss as maybe being depressed or sad, but we really need to kind of dive into that because there's so many people that are affected by suicide, thousands every year. And if we can just save one person, that's the goal. So yeah,
Right.
We're going to be talking about that at Social Circle High School today from 11 to 1. And we're going to give them great resources, local resources, a suicide hotline number to hand out, just to kind of keep it in the forefront of their brain to look out for, because it's
Right.
common in young adults.
Right, it is, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's so sad.
And when we talk about the forefront of our brain, Alexis and I have spent a good bit of time discussing how to help kids help each other, but more so even how to help them recognize signs in themselves.
Absolutely.
Our teens in particular take so much responsibility on themselves. They're out there trying to save everyone else. And then, so part of what Alexis's focus is to teach kids resiliency strategies and coping mechanisms so that they can, of course, be aware of their friends, but also be aware of what's going
Self-aware.
on. Yeah,
Yes.
self-aware is
Yeah.
really important. And we've spent some time working on strategies for kids with that.
Yeah. So if you know anybody or you suspect somebody might be having suicide ideation or, suicidal thoughts, please reach out. Tish will provide her phone number. You can call Hope Springs Counseling. There's plenty of local resources to help with that.
Yeah, in addition to the national hotline, which allows, I didn't realize until you and I started doing research for this, I thought it was a call center, but they have a text option as well.
They do.
Yeah, they're at 988.
Yeah, so if you don't feel comfortable speaking on the phone, text them. There's 24/7, there's somebody there to talk.
Right. Very good. Well, hopefully we'll see some of you guys out at Social Circle, and we are available to schedule at other schools, organizations, churches, clubs. Sometimes even sports teams have a lot of self-care needs regarding this and around suicide. So just reach out to me, 770-207-3174. We're also on Instagram at Walton Youth Project. Thank you. Thanks, Alexis.
Thanks.
If you haven't been up by the old courthouse, the flowers and all are in just full bloom right now, and it's just a beautiful place. So if you don't have anything else to do but sit and look, come to the courthouse downtown Monroe. It's beautiful.
Hey Walton County, it's Patrice Broughton, your Public Information Officer here with another county update. We will start with the meeting agenda from the September 12th meeting. It wasn't a long meeting, so it will not be a long update, but we want to start with a congratulations to the Walton County 4-H BB team for placing at state. They also had several individuals to best their own records and also place at state. So we want to give a congratulations to them and all of their hard work, to the students, the coaches, and the parents as well. We had a presentation by Dee Dee Harris. She was speaking about the mental health task force. If you want to learn more about that, you could give Dee Dee Harris a call at Walton Wellness. But the task force, we're excited about it because it will help the local law enforcement and the first responders think of alternative ways of dealing with mental health in the community, and instead of incarceration being the first choice. So we're really excited about that and that partnership with local law enforcement, first responders, and the Advantage Behavioral Health Systems as well. So be looking for more of that information to come. We had all of the commissioners present for this meeting, and we started with the Planning Commission recommendations. We had an approval of a land use change from Village Center to Highway Corridor and a rezone of 2.79 acres from B2 to B3. And the Board of Commissioners went with the recommendation of the Planning Commission and approved it with conditions. We had an approval of a land use change from Village Center to Highway Corridor and a rezone of 0.3 of each driveway to allow access for a property located on Highway 20, and it was approved. We had a couple of resolutions that were adopted, one being a project length budget for road resurfacing projects with SPOS funds, and we also had a few budget amendments. We had a rejection of a bid for Sentinel Hill Church Road line replacement because it was over budget. And the Walton County Board of Commissioners reinstated the vacation buyback program for employees. We had some appointments to the Walton County Hospital Authority, and they reappointed Angela Yarman and appointed Alan Duvall and Dr. Richard Jacob. We approved an EMS ambulance that was surplus, and we donated it to Fish. And we also approved a final asphalt topping for a few subdivisions that needed some asphalt added. We did not hold an executive session for the meeting. Again, it was a short meeting. It was very straightforward. Anything you want from the meeting, you can find it under the Agendas and Meetings tab for the Walton County Board of Commissioners on the website. I do want to announce that the Good Hope Convenience Center for Recycling is open for business, and they have resumed their regular business schedule. So if you need any information on that, you can find that on the Walton County website as well under the Public Works Convenience Center tab. Again, we hope everyone is staying safe. We hope you're all looking forward to some cooler fall weather, and I don't think I'll get in trouble for cheering on the Bulldogs. So everybody that's a Bulldog fan, we want to say go Dogs, and we hope to continue on this winning streak. We hope everybody's staying safe, and as always, if you need anything, please give us a call at the Board of Commissioners at 770-267-1301. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Kenny Sargent with Keep Walton Beautiful and the Walton County Recycling Center. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We're super busy here at the center. We've got a lot of events coming up. The next event we have is Saturday, September 23rd from 10 to 12 here at the Recycling Center. We're going to have a shredding truck here for a document destruction event. It's a great time for any of the old sensitive documents you got at home that you don't want to just put in a recycling bin. You want to make sure they're shredded and no one can get your information. Any old tax documents, anything with your social security number on it, any of those sensitive documents. It's a great opportunity to bring it out here and get that properly taken care of. Again, we'll be out here from 10 to 12. We'll have a shredding truck here. They'll even give out documents of destruction to basically guaranteeing that these documents have been taken care of properly. There's a video camera on the side of the truck where you can actually watch your documents go to basically confetti. It's turned into one of our bigger events. We haven't had one here at the Recycling Center in a couple years. We've been doing them in Loganville and in Social Circle, and we're going to bring it back here and have one here at the center. So come on out and see us. Again, that's Saturday, September 23rd from 10 to noon. If you have any questions, give us a call here, 770-267-1421, and we'll answer any questions you may have about the event. And then moving forward, Saturday, October 21st, we have our annual Rivers Alive event. Right now we have in the neighborhood of 190 volunteers that'll be out cleaning local waterways or areas adjacent to those waterways on that Saturday. And that one's kind of set in stone. It's a little bit late to take on new volunteers. But if that is something you're interested in, it's one of our biggest cleanup events. Give us a call out here and we can go ahead and get you on the email list for next year's event. We'll start sending out feelers for Rivers Alive about June or July of every year. So give us a call if that's something you're interested in. And again, that's coming up in October. We have also scheduled a paint collection for Saturday, November the 18th, and that one will run from 8 a.m. to noon. We've partnered with Atlanta Paint Disposal again this year for our America Recycles Day event. So we know, you all are always looking forward to that event, and we're happy to keep putting that on for as long as there's paint out there that people are trying to get rid of. We're also starting to dig into trying to set up for a tire amnesty in the spring. I'll keep you updated on that. What we're really looking to do is have a week-long tire amnesty where tires can be brought in from citizens for free for that week. So keep your eyes and ears open for that one. We'll get more information. Tires are one of the biggest problems we see as far as finding them on the side of the road and in creeks and rivers around the county and all of that. So it really is a big deal to offer an opportunity to get rid of those for free. So again, we'll keep you updated on that and let you know more as we go along. One of the other things I wanted to bring up is, as many of you probably know, We are now accepting mattresses here, but we are having to turn away quite a few people that come in with mattresses that are basically torn in half, or box springs where all of the wood, they're just shattered, or their holes burned all the way through the mattress. Those things we will not be able to accept here, and we'll have to turn you around. We can't take them. The company that we take our mattresses to, or that come and pick up the mattresses, they're actually reuse the mattresses. They take the fabric off the mattress itself. They put new fabric around the mattress, and they ship those off to be used. So they can't have mattresses that are tattered and soaking wet and really where the mattress itself is ruined. So just wanted to get that out there, maybe save you the trip. If you have any questions about, whether your mattress would or would not be accepted here, give us a call. Again, our number is 770-267-1421. And like I do every single time I'm on here, if you've never been to our center, don't really know what we're doing, want to start recycling but don't really know how, have some things at home that the company you use won't recycle, but you'd really like to recycle them, give us a call. Find out. Chances are we are recycling that stuff here, and we'd be happy to get you in the right direction on that. So give us a call, come out and see us, let us walk you around and show you what we're all about out here. And until next time, take care.
Hey there, Michelle Patrick here with Walton County 4-H. Behind me we have our extension office. You may or may not have passed this on Criswell Road, but we are officially out here. We moved in January of this past year, and we're all set up now. We have a great facility. Feel free to come by anytime from 8:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. In addition to that, we're back into the new school year, and we started our 4-H club meetings this week. We visit about 1,500 fifth graders all over Walton County and social circle schools. So that's really exciting. Every month we see 1,500, and we take a new interactive lesson each time to teach them things like healthy living. We have STEM activities, we do moon phases, and we really just try to keep them curious about the world and show them that learning really can be fun. So we're excited to be back in the classrooms, and I do have one other piece of news. It's a little bit sad, kind of bittersweet, but also exciting. I have recently accepted a position to move to Guatemala, and I tell you this because my position needs to be filled as Walton County 4-H agent. It will be posted soon. We need someone that's really, really good, that loves kids, that wants to be involved in the community, and that loves 4-H. So please contact our office if you're interested or would like to know more about 4-H programming or about my role as agent. So please give us a call at 770-267-1324. Thank you so much.
Hello, welcome to Monroe Walton Center for the Arts. We have our regional juried show up. This show is here through, make sure I get the date right, October 19th. So you have about, 5 weeks or so to come see this show. Please do come see it. We've got 60 local artists in the show. I think we have around 160 pieces in the show. So it's just a really, really great show. We're having the awards ceremony soon, and so when you come in, you can see the ribbons as they're displayed and what got first, best in show, and then what got first, second, and third in the various categories, and then honorable mentions. So come in, see if you agree with the judge or see if you disagree with the judge, and I think you'll find a lot of inspiration. It's a very beautiful, relaxing thing to do, to come here. Also, a lot of the pieces, I would say most of them, 80% or more, are available for purchase. They do have to stay through the end of the show, but we will mark them as sold, and then you can pick them up on October 20th when the show is over. The show is over on October 19th. So come see this show. It's in the gallery through about the middle of October. We have Dinosaur Day coming up, and I can't even remember all the activities we have going on. Dinosaur Day is a citywide event. A lot of the stores downtown will be participating with special sales and dinosaur-related themed things going on here at the Art Center, and that's on September 16th, so Saturday, September 16th. Here at the Art Center, we'll be doing activities, and we're kind of trying to make it into a kids' art day, so but still very much dinosaur themed. We're going to have a volcano in the front lobby. We're going to have dinosaur tracks going through the gallery with some fun facts on it. And then once kids complete the little dinosaur track, we'll have a prize for them. We're going to have, I don't know, 3 or 4 at least different crafts going on, from spin art, shrinky dinks, a pottery project, all kinds of things going on that day. And a lot of more kids centered than our usual soirees, but still things that adults obviously can have a lot of fun with. So please come out and see all the really special. We're kind of trying to pull out the stops on this one. Our volunteers are all over this and all excited about getting kids and families in here to see the show, see the shop, and then also to pick up one of our class lists when you're here. So please come see that. I wanted to show, this is our Paint Party with Jennifer project, and that is on September, 15th, I think. It's the 3rd Friday, yeah. Friday, September 15th. And this is the project from 7 to 9 p.m. Jennifer's a great teacher. You'll have a lot of fun painting this along with her. It's mostly ladies. We do have the occasional man come in, a husband or boyfriend of somebody, but it's mostly ladies in this class. And you do need to pre-register. So if you go to our website, monroewaltonarts.org, you'll see everything that you need to know about how to register for this. And I think we had over 100 different classes and events going on in September. So lots going on here for kids and adults. So please go to the website, monroewaltonarts.org, and see what we have going on. You can also, of course, come in here, pick up a class list, talk to us. You can register online for a lot of our classes, or come in here and register, or even call us over the phone and we'll get you set up. This one you do need to register by the Thursday before the class so that the teacher has time to prepare the canvases and get everything ready for us. Another new thing we have coming up in September is photography. Gina is back with her fabulous Photography 101 course. It's 4 weeks, and that starts toward the end of September. I think the first class is September 23rd. So lots going on. See the show, visit the shop. 70 to 80 different local makers and artists in our shop, and see what we have going on, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
My name's Eddie Metcalf. I enjoy working in my yard, and I can't do that anymore because I'm missing most of my lung. They did a CAT scan of my kidneys. No more kidney stones, that's the good news, but we found a spot on your lung. That frankly scared the hell out of me. I hadn't smoked in 22 years. How could this happen to me? He said, well, you know about radon gas. Well, I heard about it. He said, well, the second leading cause of cancer in America is radon. 22,000 people a year die from this. I literally left the doctor's office, got a test kit, put it in the house, and our result was 39.8. The upper limit is 4. We got to get this fixed. That was on a Monday, and on Wednesday, our mitigation system was up and running. Well, I think everybody should have their house tested. We'd never known we'd still be living there. I could get another tumor from it, but right now it's changing my life.
Hey guys, Isaac over at Reboot, giving you a Reboot tech tip. Just want to talk a little bit today about kid safety on the internet, especially nowadays with all kids having the smartphones and the tablets and laptops and all that stuff. It can only take like a click or two for kids to get in trouble, especially if they're not taught rules and stuff like that. It can be very dangerous very quickly. I am not a big Apple person, but one thing I do love about Apple is on their phones and their iPads, they have a program called Screen Time. And you can lock down that phone or that iPad. If you only want them to go to certain websites, you can do that. If you only want them on the internet for a certain amount of time, you can do that. If you don't want them installing all this social media stuff, these crazy apps like Snap and Kick and the dangerous stuff, Twitter, whatever it may be, you can lock that down. So I'm a big supporter of Apple in that way. So if you want to give your kid a phone, an Apple iPhone is a great way to go. If you want to give your kid a tablet, an Apple iPad is a great way to go. If you can't quite figure that stuff out, the Screen Time app, you can always take it to a place and they can help you out, or Apple support can help you out, stuff like that. But I'm big on that. One other thing too I'll say about kids being on computers, it's gotten a little better, I would say, lately with like Google helping out, Microsoft, Bing not so much, but Google has helped lock down a lot of stuff on their browsers, especially like Google Chrome I'm talking about. If you take and turn on the safe search, there's a safe search little toggle thing that you can turn on, and that helps a lot. It can help on regular browsing, but it can also help on like YouTube and stuff like that. It's not 100%, but it can definitely help. One other thing I'll touch on too, so there's apps out there called accountability apps. There's one that I've used for kids called Ever Accountability. It doesn't stop kids from going places, but what it does is it tracks everything. Even these apps on their phones and stuff like that are supposedly erase stuff after they look at it. It keeps track of everything, even stuff that gets erased. So if they're doing something crazy on their phone or their tablet or their computer, that all that stuff can be tracked, and that's a great tool. Again, it's called Ever Accountability. And I'm a big supporter of teaching your kids about the internet and stuff like that, because it can be so dangerous so fast. So, but anyway, stay safe and please keep your kids safe on the internet. Again, Isaac with Reboot, giving you the Reboot tech tip.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First, they said cigarettes were safe. We know how that turned out. Now, they say they didn't market e-cigarettes to teens? Fact, more than 1 in 4 high school students are vaping, and 80% say their first e-cigarette was flavored. Vaping is harmful to developing brains. The reason we think vaping is safe? Marketing. Same lies, different day. Tell Big Vape to quit lying.
To me, the most important thing about being in the human race isn't winning. It's participating, living life to the fullest, emphasis on living. This is what makes life, life. Yet how much of life are we willing to miss out on? Untreated hearing loss affects our mobility. It increases the risk of falls by 50%. Good hearing health is essential to staying engaged and doing what we love. Hear well and stay vital. Get a hearing health check every year.
Extinction is forever. To save America's most iconic and imperiled species from extinction, we must fight for their future. Fight to save the natural lands that wildlife call home. Fight to limit pollution. Fight for smart development. Fight for their future. And fight for ours.